What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNVDriversedition. And today, I guess I got a couple things to discuss, but we got one topic of focus, and you saw that in the thumbnail. So today on Christmas Eve, there has been a question asked, are ZR1s finally selling for MSRP? And this was only mentioned because there are so many posts, or should I say advertisements out there where we see ZR1s listed for MSRP. But I'm here to tell you, it's not what it seems. And let's talk about, should you still be paying over MSRP for a C8 ZR1? Let's talk about it. Okay, let's start off in this conversation by saying this. I've made a video before about this topic, and part of the reason it never got released is one, because I never really finished editing the video, and then two, I always feel like when we have this conversation that I'm going to make a lot of people mad with this conversation because it becomes an emotional topic. Too many people out there are going to sit there and say you're a fool for paying over MSRP. Fools will quickly be departed from their money, and so many spiritual quotes and just comments and negative sayings. And what I really hate in any type of market space is people being critical and negative of somebody else because it's something they wouldn't do. Just because you wouldn't spend your money one way doesn't mean somebody else is wrong for spending the money that they made or another. But now let's will ourselves back into the topic at hand. Are C8 ZR1 selling for MSRP today? The answer to that question is yes, but it's not a true yes. And the reason why I say it's not a true yes is because many people that are actually getting their hands on cars today at MSRP on a C8 ZR1 are people who were on a list at a dealership that was willing to sell at MSRP. So can you buy a car for MSRP? The answer is yes. But what I will sit there and say to you is, as of today, I can promise you over 90% of all C8 ZR1s that have been built have been sold for some form of an ADM, which is adjusted dealer markup. So if every car that has been built to this point is selling with some form of ADM, and even cars that are coming out today that aren't allocated to anyone still have a dealer markup added to them, can you buy a car at MSRP? The answer is no. And the reason why I say no, being on someone's list and purchasing a car at MSRP is not the same as if you can go out and buy a car for MSRP. Now, I guess that's kind of wordplay or all how you see the perspective, because I know you want to say, well, if I'm on a list and I can buy a car for MSRP, then I can get a car at MSRP. But let me explain it to you like this. The Corvette C8, the base model C8, can be purchased for MSRP or below. That's the statement you make when every dealership out there is selling the car at MSRP or less. And because of that, many people say you can actually buy a base C8 today for $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, and $10,000 below MSRP. So the argument today about the base C8 is really how low can you actually get the car. That's a car that's selling below MSRP when every location is competing for your business at a similar or a level playing field. When you go back to the C8 ZR1, every location that is competing for your business on what would be a level playing field, meaning I have a car in my inventory that I'm trying to sell, you're looking at today anywhere between $50,000 and $85,000 over MSRP. Yes, there are several cars out there listed for $100,000 over MSRP. But what has come up with these $100,000 over MSRP listings is many of the cars listed for $100,000 at MSRP, you can actually now start to negotiate, as I call it, the fake money. So you may hear, yeah, it's $100,000 over MSRP, but make me an offer. And what they'll do is they'll take your offer into consideration, meaning you say, well, I'll buy it at $75,000 or $85,000 over MSRP. They may tell you today you can't buy the car. Some places will say, you know what, let's run it. Let's go ahead and make that deal. But a lot of locations are saying, let me see what you're offering, $85,000. Let me talk to my boss. I got to get manager's approval or a general manager's approval or the owner's approval. And literally they're just trying to see what other offers they get within that week. And whoever has the highest offer, they're going to go to that person for the car. That's what's taking place today. But now on the other side of that is there are people out there, like I stated in my local area, that we had a dealer that said they may be lucky if they get 2 C8 ZR1 allocations, and they are saying that they would sell the C8 ZR1 for 25 to 50 grand over MSRP. So yes, you have locations out there that aren't willing to break the bank on an over MSRP payment, but that doesn't mean they're still not selling over MSRP. So we have people out there making the comment, well, you can get a car for 20,000 over MSRP. That is true. But most of those locations, just like the ones in my area, they already have a list. So for many of the dealers that are willing to sell the car at 20,000 or anything under 50,000 over MSRP, you're not really walking in off the street today buying that car as long as they have a list. Now, there's also the side where people sit there and say, hey, you know, the number one dealership, Ciocca, has been selling cars, or MacMoken have been selling cars at MSRP every year and they haven't changed. Well, technically that's a lie. And the reason why I'd say that's a lie, because I only speak on information that's been put out there for everybody to look at. Both dealers have sold the new C8 ZR1 over MSRP. So when the number one and number two dealership sell cars over MSRP, they're kind of dictating the market space. Now, the difference between them, and I know there are going to be people to say, I got my car at MSRP. The difference between them, and I stated this before with the C8 Z06, and I proved it. We could talk about that in another video. Matter of fact, we could talk about it here. Back when Ciocca did their list and they had people standing outside waiting to get in, and the number two person or number three person in line came online and said for some odd reason, after all that waiting and time, that he was number 33 on their list. And I mentioned to them before that based off some insider information that the first 25 allocations were not being made available to the public. And I was told I was wrong. And I'm like, well, how can you be the number one person in line and you end up in the 20s, 28 on the list or something like that? But that information came out. And not only did that information come out, the fact that somebody actually got a C8 Z06, they got one of the first 5 C8 Z06s that came to that dealership. And it was reportedly that the first few allocations when I went into the location were going to be sold to friends and family and a few people who were willing to pay more money for the car. I was told that when I visited the dealership. So with that being said, the number one dealer at the time was still selling cars over MSRP. There have been a few people on YouTube, with Street Speed being one of them, that have admitted to buying their car from one of the number one and number two dealer locations in the country for Corvette sales, and they paid over MSRP. I was also told by a salesman that works at the location that if I wanted the car early, which I'm gonna just be honest with you right now, I'm not paying $100,000 over MSRP for a car, but there's people that will actually do it. If I wanted the car early, if I wanted to guarantee myself the opportunity to get a car, they did have a list of people that was willing to pay over MSRP. You can state your price, and they were going to pull from both lists when it came time to sell cars. Now, I know that I believe it was MacMoken came out and stated earlier that yes, they did sell a few cars over MSRP, but that was a one-off thing, and they now have went to their list of none over MSRP payment purchases. But even then, that's you admitting that two lists actually existed. And for people that wanted to pay over MSRP, there was an opportunity for them to get their hands behind a car. So, voila. So when people say, like this person, that the number one dealership in the country doesn't sell cars over MSRP, that's not true. But then again, how they justify it is that the C8 ZR1 or ZR1X, they are like limited edition special cars that everybody can't get their hand on. And because of the rarity of the car and the cost of it not being a normal car, meant for everybody to purchase. This car is more of an exclusive vehicle, and based upon those factors, they handle their marketing, or should I say selling or distribution of this car, a tad bit different than they do normal C8s. Now, another thing I find interesting about this is that so many people complain about the C8 ZR1 being listed over MSRP, but if you look at the C6 ZR1 or you look at the C7 ZR1, both of those cars today on the market space still sell above MSRP. So why is it do we believe the C8 ZR1, which is a much better production car for what it's built for, than those two cars will not do the same thing? And not only that, we're talking about a car that is now built for a different market. I feel like part of the reason we have these conversations is because the average Corvette owner doesn't understand or refuse to believe the C8 platform was not built for the Corvette loyalists. The C8 platform was actually built to bring in new buyers and new people to the Corvette space. And because of that, when you build a car with over 1,000 horsepower from the factory with a warranty, you cannot expect the average Corvette owner who's only been owning 400 and 460 horsepower cars to be able to afford this car. You're now switching to a market space where people who were owning 700, 800 horsepower cars from factory, people that go out and buy Audi R8s and mod them to get 800 plus horsepower and don't care about a factory warranty. This is the market space you're targeting. People that go out and buy a Lamborghini Huracan and all of a sudden they now go and they turbocharge it for another 40 grand to get 800, 900 horsepower. This is the market space you're targeting. So when you hear all these Corvette owners hollering that the over MSRP payments aren't fair and who in their right mind would pay this type of money for a car, the same people that spend that type of money, the same person that bought a brand new Audi R8 for $234,000, shipped the car off to get a VF tune and turbocharged addition to it to get over 800 wheel horsepower for $60,000, $50,000, $40,000 extra dollars and instantly void their factory warranty. That's the person that's willing to spend $300,000 on a twin turbocharged from factory with a warranty C8 ZR1 because they understand what they're getting. It's only the Corvette owner that wants to sit there and say to you that the C8 ZR1, 1,064 horsepower, will be selling below MSRP within 6 months. That is something, should I say, futile and crazy, because for some odd reason, you believe they are going to mass produce this car to the point whereas it loses value. I'll just be honest with you. GM is not going to make the C8 ZR1 or the C8 ZR1X the C8 Z06. I believe you may never see more than 6,000 C8 ZR1s and ZR1Xs. And if that car stays that rare, considering that there are McLaren 720Ss, McLaren 750Ss, Lamborghinis, Huracans, Ferraris, that this car outperforms, the market space to own a car that can dominate those cars is there. And to pay over $250,000 to own this car, that market space will always exist. Because that's who I'm seeing right now stepping up into the ownership of these cars. I'm not seeing owners who have never owned a true supercar buying a C8 ZR1 to this day, especially over MSRP. So when you think about it, most owners of the C8 ZR1 or the C8 ZR1X, so even if you look at their garage today or 3 years before, they've had a real supercar in their garage. When I say real supercar, a car they've paid over $180,000 for, a car they've paid over $200,000 for, a car they paid over $250,000 for. Those are the people that you see today with a C8 ZR1 in their garage. I have not seen anybody showcasing a C8 ZR1 that has not had a car in their garage that they've actually paid over $200,000 for. Let that sink in. So I guess the last thing I can say about this, which is going to be controversial, is that the reason why you have these people that believe the C8 ZR1 is overpriced is because when you trade your time for money, you always look at money for what you're sacrificing it for. That sacrifice is usually the time you have to give up, the time away from your family, the time that you have to spend doing things to actually produce it. But when you look at money in a way whereas it's built upon a new idea, a product, services, or something like that, when you make money and you don't trade it for time, you don't have the same value for it. For them, the goal is to make passive income, money while they're sleeping. And when you make money while you're sleeping without you doing any type of extra efforts, you feel like, or you believe, your idea of creating more money isn't the same as a person that's trading their money for time. And that's what separates the difference between the philosophy of how they spend money, how they create money, and whether or not you believe buying a car over MSRP is a dumb deal or just another opportunity that you have to create. You just focus on creating more opportunities to put yourself out there to make an income. So at the end of the day, it's not about the amount of time you have, it's about the opportunities, and you focus on making more opportunities to create more money. And for people like that, you don't feel like making money is a hard challenge, and that's why you spend it differently. That's why you make it differently. And that's the biggest difference between people that work hourly and make their own money elsewhere. You're now separating the time for your money. And when people make money like that, or you have employees that you're trading their labor for, their man hours, and it makes you money, you look at it different. Those are the people who spend money over MSRP. So when you say they're a fool for parting ways with their money, they look at life differently than you. They look at the fact that maybe if I come up with a different idea, if I come up with a different solution, if I provide a different service, if I get more production, if I get more productivity, if I get this, what they're looking at is the amount of money they can make is not based around the time they have to sacrifice to make it. It's based off something else that's a variable that if they do something different, they can make more money and make up what they lost or make up what they've given up. And I would say to you this. Remember that there are people that buy McDonald's coffee, there's people that buy Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and there's people that buy Starbucks coffee. And to a person like me who don't drink coffee, I don't understand why some people pay $10 for a cup of coffee at Starbucks when you can get a cup of coffee at McDonald's for $4 or $5 on a cup of coffee. And there's the other person that's buying the C8 ZR1 for Starbucks money, meaning they're paying over MSRP to get the C8 ZR1 like people buy Starbucks coffee. And at the end of the day, when you look at it from a person that doesn't drink coffee, we are all sitting there saying coffee is coffee is coffee. Whereas the people spend the money sit there and say to you, they can tell you why they bought McDonald's coffee versus Dunkin' Donuts coffee versus Starbucks coffee. Because at the end of the day, regardless of where you get this coffee, Starbucks coffee can be bought around the corner from my house. It can be bought at the train station. It can be bought at the airport. It can be bought in hotels. It can be bought at sporting events. Every location, the coffee is the same, or it tastes the same, or how they make the coffee is the same. But every location, the same cup of coffee costs more money. I don't buy Starbucks at the airport. Starbucks at the airport is about $3 more than you can get at a regular location. Why would I pay that for a cup of coffee? I don't need it that bad. But when I'm at the airport, the Starbucks line is wrapped around the corner. The Starbucks at the convention center for like events like SEMA or the Chicago Auto Show, that costs additional $4 or $5. That line is wrapped around the corner. So again, you're paying inflation over MSRP payments for coffee. So why is it that you won't complain about the fact that you buying a cup of coffee at this location and the price is higher and you get in line and still purchase it? But because somebody else want to spend that extra money on a car, they're dumb. That's something you need to think about. But let me know your thoughts. Honestly, why not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your take on this? Do you really believe the C8 ZR1 is going to be below MSRP within the next 6 to 8 months? Do you believe the C8 ZR1 is always going to be a specialty vehicle that won't be produced enough to actually affect the market value in a negative way, which I mean that will ever make it a true MSRP car or below MSRP car once the production stops? At least that's my belief. Or do you believe we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg now and people are making bad decisions by not getting their hands on a car today because 3-5 years from now, once Corvette production stops, the C8 ZR1 is only going to go up in value? Let me know in the comments below. ICNV Driver Edition, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Join the ICNV Driver Edition community. We are an interactive community, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms or in the comments below, I do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, I may even shoot a video on it. But don't forget, we're a community of car enthusiasts that love to drive cars to make you turn your head that aren't your everyday people movers. If you're one of those individuals, go ahead and lock into the channel, subscribe to your boy. We have more interesting content coming your way, and you don't want to miss out. But don't forget, we were all made in his image and given dominion over the world, which means we weren't just meant to be. So chase your dreams, build your visions, never ever give up, and embrace your own identity. It is okay to be unique. He's not done with you, and he's definitely not done with me. We were all given unique gifts to become the best version of us that we can possibly be. So step into your calling and become the blessing to the world that you were meant to be. Just remember to stay humble, stay focused, and stay blessed. And I'll see you in these streets. Peace.